Yeah, the live is on.
Okay, we made it. 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 What is going on, beautiful people? We are live on the scene. Stoppage Time FC back at you with the second show. And tonight we are talking about the English Premier League. And sorry to the American football fans, I know you think the NFL is the most watched sport, but believe it or not, the EPL is actually the most watched league worldwide, and it's not even close. I think the NFL Super Bowl last year, or the record was like at 118 million for the Seahawks Patriots Super Bowl. EPL does 5 billion on an average Sunday. So I don't know what you want
Close.
to do with that information, but let's just get cracking. We're going to introduce the crew, Stoppage Time FC. We'll start with you, Mr. Zach Westrick.
What's going on, fam? We're just talking some English Premier League, our consensus top 8, as well as some other few things. Excited to be here, and let's get going.
94 feet of life zone, big shot. What's on your football mind tonight?
Hey, what's going on? I'm excited about this one. We're gonna talk the beautiful game, introduce some people to the game a little bit more, and let's rock and roll.
We got another crossover from the Dish crew, the boy wonder, Mr. Artie Ruiz himself. Artie, talk to the people.
What's up, guys? It's a little past my bedtime, but we're gonna get this show going. We're gonna get it started, and I got permission, so it's all right.
We won't keep you too long, Artie. We'll make sure you get your full 8 hours. Don't forget your glass of milk, and we'll make sure to get you out of here.
8.5, 8.5.
Oh, my bad. I apologize. I apologize. And lastly, certainly not least, making his highly anticipated debut here on the scene, one of the best teachers you'll ever know, Mr. Joe. Talk to the people.
What's going on, guys? I missed out last week, some power issues, but I'm got to watch the whole show last week, and I got goosebumps listening to y'all talk and all about soccer. I'm excited, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Resident
Yes, sir.
Manchester City fan. So
All right. All right. All right. All right. Don't shake your head, Zach.
Already.
We need positive vibes only, baby. Positive
We
vibes
30
only.
seconds in, and he already pitching.
All right, let's get started. So on the agenda today, we are going to reveal the top 8 EPL teams, our power rankings. We're going to talk about some of the bigger transfers as well. Talk about maybe a player of the year candidate, coach of the year candidate, and maybe a sleeper team or two that could emerge as the season progresses. So like I said, we got 8 teams, and kicking off number 8 is Zach Westrick, who is the 8th team on our list.
All right, everybody. This is a consensus between the entire crew. So, just keep in mind that as we go through this was what we felt as a whole. Now, everybody's going to have individual different opinions on these rankings, but this is what we came up with. So at 8, we got Leicester City. The reason we have Leicester City there is they really haven't done anything. They have brought in one person, a right back from Atalanta, Castaigne, and they lost Ben Chilwell. So they lost a England left back and brought in an Italian right back. So I don't know how that equates to success with that team. And they have, Jamie Vardy's getting a little bit older, and we don't know if it's going to be Vardy party time anymore. So we have Leicester at 8.
Yes, I'm on mute. That's my bad. Joe, give us your quick thoughts on Leicester City.
they, like Jack said, they haven't brought anybody in. Chilwell was one of their main players. He played almost every game for them. So losing him for 50 million to another squad we're going to be talking about a little bit later definitely is going to hurt them a little bit. They always the thing with them is even when people seem to count them out, they kind of find a way to make their way into the top 10, top 8. I mean, nobody expected anything from that squad when they won the Premier League 4 or 5 years back. So I don't have them in my top 8 because I think they're losing some, but they always seem to find a way to surprise people. So it would not shock me at all to see them 6, 7, 8 somewhere in there. But I think that's probably their ceiling.
Yeah, I mean, this is a team that finished top 5 last year in the standings. I think they finished 62 points. So they are certainly a team that are always surprising. Artie, give us your thoughts on Leicester City.
Yeah, I'm kind of with Joe there. It's like you have teams that you know are going to disappoint that could be upper echelon, and then you have teams that you know are going to surprise you. And Leicester City has done that the past few years. But I'll also say is I think they've established themselves as a middle of the pack kind of team. So with that being said, that's why me personally I had them I believe at 7, but that's why I had them there is because they just kind of now are just established as a 7, 8, 6 team. Last year was a crazy season, so 5.
Yeah.
But that's what you get out of that kind of team.
Sure, for sure. Big shot.
Yeah, just not enough activity in the window. And they weren't a deep squad as it was, and then losing Chilwell hurts, but they still have enough frontline talent. They just don't have the depth in the squad to go up into a European place. So yeah, Leicester Serie 8. Leicester Serie 8 is safe. That's our own.
And they lost Harry Maguire last year, and the guy that came in to take his spot, Suyaku, is still got some transfer buzz going about him too, that he might head out. And if they end up selling him again, that's going to be a big hole in the center of their defense, which is going to be hard to fill at this point in the transfer market. So,
Right, for sure. I mean, we have to keep in mind that it's a weird season. Obviously, we talked about it in every show we do here on the scene, and the transfer window is still a month away until being closed. So anything could still happen here. Big Shot, we're gonna stay with you and reveal the lucky number 7 on our power
The
rankings.
number 7 is my club,
Uh-huh.
Arsenal. 10th last year, the worst season in the Premier League era for the club. So getting to 7 would be an improvement. I think Arteta has a lot of work on his hands to reshape this squad. So 7th place would be good. I think the bigger aim for the club in a completely separate competition would be is for Arsenal to actually win the Europa League. It's the most boring competition of the year. But I think for a club like Arsenal to win the Europa League would actually be better. So for me, whatever they do in the league this year, honestly, is a bonus.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think they need to actually win the Europa to get back in the Champions League. But 7th for Arsenal is about right. Moving from 10 to 7, it is an improvement. But there's still a lot of work with that squad to do, a lot of ins and outs that need to happen. So 7th is about right.
Yeah, I mean they finished +8 last year in goal differential, which is the lowest in that top 8 rankings, and that is why they finished where they finished. Zach, give me your thoughts on Arsenal at 7.
So to echo what Ron said, I like Arteta. I think he's going to be a world-class manager. So Arsenal bringing him in is probably the best thing they could have done. I like, for me, Arsenal's problems were always in the middle of their back line, and they strengthened that when they brought in Magalhaes. And then they brought in Willian on a free from Chelsea, so he moved right next door, and so they got a little bit of depth up front. They strengthened their back line. I like Ronnie said, going from 10 to 7 would be a good jump for them. We'll see if they do anything else in the window. They lost Mkhitaryan, which isn't really a huge deal. He was a fringe player anyway. But yeah, I like him at 7.
Joe, your thoughts on Arsenal?
I think Arteta definitely is the guy for the job. He played there for a long time. He knows what it takes and what kind of history that club has. So I was a big fan. I was sad to lose him in the middle of the season. He was the number 2 behind Pep Guardiola at City. And as soon as that opening came available, I knew his name was going to be going. And I think he's going to do a really good job once he's able to implement his system and get in there full time with his players. Because last year he came in mid-season, and it kind of that's a tough job for a manager in soccer to come in mid-season and try to change things and implement a new style and get your guys going. So I think he's the right guy. I think I echo what Ronnie said too. He's going to be great. And when Zach is spot on with Arteta as a world-class manager, he learned under Pep. He was a great midfielder for Arsenal too. And those guys tend to make pretty good managers down the road. So I think bang up higher for them, and I think they're gonna probably finish right around. I had them at 7 as well, so that's right where I had them too. So that's spot on.
Yeah, I think if you look at soccer, like there's certain positions that just translate better as to a manager, and I think you see that really across all sports, and that certainly is consistent with football. Artie, give me your thoughts on Arsenal at 7.
I agree with everything they said. I was going to bring up what Zach said. Getting Willian, that will give them, you know, more pieces up front. Ceballos, he's coming on loan from Real Madrid. I think that they'll actually use him quite a bit too. So I think up front, and I think we can all agree on this. Arsenal's never really had too many problems up front. They're a team that can score, but they did take care of their back line, as Zach said. So I don't know. You'll see this team, I think, in a lot of competitive games. If they can run the score up, a lot of times they'll be very successful. But it's not easy to run the score up every game in this kind of sport. So I think I had them 8, but 7 is a good spot for them.
Yeah, I mean, just to highlight all your points, I think they were only, like I said, they were only +8 in goal differential. That certainly needs to improve if they want to be higher and if they want to have a better finish. But we'll see how it
But
goes for them. Certainly some
they have, a-
optimism.
they have a really bad time finishing. They have a really awful time finishing the ball, and if they correct that, they could be dangerous.
hmm Again, consistency in all sports. When you look at it, the lab is the lab. Be disciplined, be strong, and finish every play, every game. Um, we are going to move on now to number 6, and Mr. Joe, please do the honors.
At 6, we got Wolverhampton Wanderers. They go by Wolves. They have a really up and coming squad. They finished 7th the past 2 years. They brought in a really talented new striker in 18-year-old Fabio Silva. They finished highest ever finish in the Europa League. Ronnie said it's kind of a boring competition, but for the lower level teams, mid-level tiers, it's important for them. And they finished in the quarters this past season. So that's going to be something for them to build on. I had them a little higher. I had them at 5. They have a lot of really good attacking talent, and they work really hard. Their coach Santo has them really well organized. They pushed every one of the top 6 big Power 6 teams that are in the Premier League last season and fared really well last year. They have a really strong midfield anchored by Ruben Neves, another Portugal player. So they doing some really nice things over there and got a lot of ability. So I think they got a shot to finish higher than 6 myself.
Yeah, I mean, this is the team that had a win over Manchester City very recently.
They
So
pushed us twice last year. Absolutely.
there you go. There you go. A big shot. Give us your thoughts on number 6.
Wolves is the team that if you're in the top 4, top 5, then nobody likes to play.
You don't want to see them on your schedule.
That is the one team that's everyone's bogey team. They got talent. The Portuguese influence is heavy. Shout out to Jorge Mendes FC. My manager of the year pick is actually Wolves' manager if the results go right, which we'll talk about another topic. But yeah, Wolves at 6 is about right and could be higher depending on what breaks. I really like the makeup of that team.
Artie, your thoughts?
Yeah, they're a team that can jump. I know they brought in, is he a right back or he's a defender?
Left back.
Marco,
Mhm.
or a Brazilian left back. He was playing in Lyon last year. I think that they've got a shot. They had some good pieces. They're an up and coming team. They add some young pieces too, with Silva and with the Portuguese guy that they got, Vitinha, I think his name is.
Mhm.
They add some nice guys in the midfield and forward position that are younger. So, you know, in a weird season, those are always good people to try out as some of your young guys, you know, fresh legs. And stuff like that. So again, and then Portuguese, everybody on the team probably speaks Portuguese. They're either Brazilian or Portuguese. So you've got that, and we know they can play soccer in those two countries. So
Hey, ain't that the truth, Ruth? Mr. West.
Yes, sir. So kind of to echo what everybody else says, the worst thing you can see as a top 6 team is Wolves in a congested fixture. So, if you have United and Liverpool, the worst team you could find in the middle is Wolves, just because, you can't rest any players when you're playing them like you normally would, and they're dangerous. They're coming into their own. They're young. Fabio Silva is going to be good. I really like this kid. I think he's going to be special. He just needs to get his legs under him and get some time. Again, just like we mentioned earlier, they brought in McCall. He's an older left back who was at Lyon, but they lost Doherty, and that's a right back. So they the same thing. They're bringing in a left back while losing a right back, and I don't know how that's going to fit, and I don't know if they I don't think that they have someone up and coming that's to Doherty's level. But I like Wolves, and I would not be surprised to see them challenge again for the Europa League, and possibly even finish 5th outright.
Do you have any concern? And I'm gonna start with Zach, and if anybody wants to give a yes or no after Zach, do you have any concern as to where they get their goals from? As in, like,
No.
the variety. Okay.
No, they're pretty diverse. They got Traore, they got Jimenez, they got Jota, they got Silva. I mean, they got lots of guys up front that can put the ball in the back of the net.
And I would say too, to Joe's point, Jimenez is probably one of the most underrated forwards in the game, one of the most underrated strikers in the game. He for a long time had to sit behind people like Carlos Vela, Chicharito, and those kind of guys. And out of that pack, I always believed that he was the best one, but he always had to sit behind guys like that. National team, and national clubs is where you play most of the time. National team is kind of where the stardom comes and where people see you, and you don't really get to see a guy like Jimenez with Mexico when he's probably the best forward they have on the Mexican team. So again, you don't really see him in clubs. Obviously a lot of people watch the Premier League, but Wolves is an up and coming team, so not a lot of people have probably seen Jimenez, but he's a really good forward.
Yep.
Adama Traore is a phenom, and then that dude is built like a tank. I saw something, probably at the end of the last season where he literally the trainers oil him down because he's so fast and he's so big that players, all they can do is just try to grab on and to slow him down. And so he literally coats himself with baby oil, and just he's a finisher.
Yeah,
I'm surprised they hung on to him, because a lot of the big clubs were pushing to sign him. I know the everything going on in the world right now kind of affected the transfer market a bit, but I'm surprised that they hung on to him because he was a hot name early on in the transfer rumors.
Certainly. All great points. We're going to move on now. We're going to go right back to Artie to reveal the number 5 team on our list.
All right. The number 5 team is Tottenham Hotspurs. So what we have here is a team that we said earlier we had Leicester as a team that's established themselves as a middle of the pack team. What we have with Tottenham is we don't have very big moves. They got Doherty from Wolves that we just talked about. They got Hart, which is big for, when you have that schedule that's compact and you're playing league games and you're playing cup games, you need another goalie. Or if, Lloris gets injured, you have somebody good to back him up. But what we have at Tottenham all the time is a team that kind of sits there at 5, kind of sits there at 4, kind of sits there at 6, where we know they can be real good. They have Son, they have Kane, they have some talent up front. They have people that can score up front, but it never translates into enough wins to match the Chelseas, to match the Liverpools, to match the Man Cities of the world. So we have them right below. Obviously, the rest of the list is to be revealed, but we have them right below for that reason. I mean, it's just like we have classes, and this is the second tier, this is the third tier, and they haven't moved to the first.
Well, I think again, just to keep, because we know that a lot of people are either relatively new to soccer or maybe don't even watch it as much as they would watch basketball, baseball, and football. But just to show you guys, there's consistency in all sports when you're being objective, and with Tottenham, with the Spurs, we're gonna call them the Spurs. Styles make fights, and they're a team that just they're a tough team to play against, whether you beat them or not. They're still a team that's a hard fight.
Right. And we talked about before. This is at Lo Celso, I believe, is what Zach was talking about earlier. Was that he's now permanent. He did play a few games for him last year. He's talented too. But again, a lot of it is in their midfield slash forward pieces that are talented. Doherty, he's going to be good for them defensively. Where do you go from here? They're just kind of that consistent team that stays in the race but doesn't finish the race.
Sure. Sure.
I wouldn't, if we talked about another sport, I wouldn't really know who to compare them to. I mean, I guess they're your Cleveland Indians. If you watch our baseball shows, they stay in the race, but they don't stay in it long enough. So
I mean, just to throw a football team in there, I'll go with the Vikings. But Mr. West, I know you're eager to talk about this team because of their striker that you have a fascination with. So give me your thoughts on the Spurs.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get to Harry Kane in a second. But Spurs, like I already said, they are always a bridesmaid, never a bride. They're really
like
good
that.
and they're always right there, but they can never get over the hump to be that team that threatens for the championship. They got the manager to do it. Jose Mourinho's proven to do it at multiple clubs, at multiple levels, in multiple leagues. Whether I like him or not, that's another subject. He knows how to motivate his players. Getting Lo Celso on the loan with the buy option. They brought in Højbjerg from, I think, Southampton was where he played last year. So they strengthened that midfield. The midfield is where they always struggled. They could get the ball, they could stop the ball. They had good defenders. They lost Jan Vertonghen, but they still got David Sanchez, who I like. So they have the defense there to defend well. And Lloris is a World Cup winner. So in goal they're strong. They could never link the play up to that top class front line. Heung-min Son is a freak. Like the dude is just otherworldly. And then you got Harry Kane, which the man, like he's fascinating to me. Like he is the exact opposite of what you normally see. You see players who dominate at the cup level, at the club level. They dominate. They just pour in goals, and then they get on that national stage for the national team, and they fizzle out.
Yeah.
Kind of like Lionel Messi.
Ooh.
Sorry I said it, but it's true. Harry Kane's the exact opposite. Harry Kane for England is otherworldly. And then, you put him in the Premier League and he just seems to be there. It's almost like he shows up, he collects his paycheck, but he's never excited to be there. Yeah. And so Tottenham are one of those teams that I think will perennially and always be that 5th, 6th in the standings.
I mean, listen, if Vic Jr. is responsible for our Saquon slander, I think Zach Westrick is responsible for our Messi slander, and he certainly did not fail in that last segment. Big Shot, jump in there.
I think what Spurs is, and Zach hit on this, Spurs can play really dull at times, considering the amount of power out front, firepower they have up front, which is really sort of Jose's mantra. Like Jose will one-nil you to death if he's allowed to. Like Jose
Park
ain't
the
really
bus.
He's not really interested in 3-2, 4-2. He ain't interested in that. Jose's about these 1-0s. So I think what's going to be the key for Tottenham is, can they find somebody in the midfield to create stuff for Kane and Son? Because if you watch Spurs last year, they had to work really, really hard to score, considering all the talent they have. So 5th place is about right for them. just because I think they still haven't figured out, or are they going to be allowed to take some of the reins off? Because as Zach alluded to, Jose likes that score down, and he's not interested in really having the ball. He'll let you have it. So we'll see how they able to balance that. But Tottenham at 5 is not unreasonable, but I think there is also every scenario where they end up 7 because, and Zach knows this about Jose too. Jose gets on your nerves after a while, and how that act plays, how long does that last? So I got Spurs at 5. I'm agree with Spurs at 5, but if it's worse, don't be surprised.
I mean, to echo that, there's a reason he's been chased out of Chelsea twice and Man United.
There you
You
go.
know, I
That's
mean,
true.
there's a reason. Jose, his luster wears off really, really quick.
2 years.
Spurs
Man.
for me are fascinating because, you know, they just built that $1 billion stadium, London Stadium, and yet they inject all that money in the stadium and not in the team.
Yeah, that's
Mind
bad.
blowing.
That's bad management right there. Joe, before you jump in here, correct me if I'm wrong, but we're talking about their style and whatnot. I believe they drew once with Man City and beat them once. Is that correct?
Yeah, they gave us some trouble last year and in the Champions League as well. So this team was one of the ones that kind of gets me a little salty. I'm not gonna lie, because we had them beat in like the 94th minute, and they called off Sterling offside. So that was this team, and now they have Jose, and he drives me absolutely bonkers. It's gonna be like Ronnie. You hit pretty much everything I was gonna say, man. Like I'm really interested to see what style they're gonna play because their strength is up front. Their front three and their attacking players. And Jose does not, like you said, he's not about that life. He's trying to park the bus. He's trying to play defensive, counter-attacking football. And that's really not what their players are strong at right now. So it's going to be a real interesting season for them. I mean, they could work out great. He could catch magic for one season, and then he could be out next year just because of the way his attitude is sometimes. So they, like you guys said, it could be 7th, but they could finish top 3 too. They're kind of could be all over the map depending on what their manager does with their man management and everything.
Big Shot, anything you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, I think it could be the Spurs. I think have of the teams we've talked about, the Spurs probably have the most variance of where the season could end up.
Mm-hmm.
The Spurs, as Joe talked about, Spurs could be 3rd. We could be sitting here in 3 months, and the Spurs could be 12th, and everybody hates Jose. It could anything between that is possible, but we're gonna keep him at 5. But that 5, it's a shaky 5. I'll say that.
Well, I guess it depends on, you know, what Dele Alli shows up for Jose Mourinho. Because when Dele Alli is on and he's distributing the ball like he can, you know, then they can be really, real dangerous. And you could see him in 3rd. I completely forgot about this, and I just checked real quick. I forgot they got Steven Bergwijn, who plays up on that left front. That, you know, that he's got a half a season under him now. He came in the winter transfer window last year for Spurs. Having a full season under him, you know, it's going to be one of those things. They're either going to finish 3rd or they're going to finish 17th.
Yeah.
You know, it's like completely random.
I mean, I know they got Kane and the listen, I know the fellas accuse me of speaking 6 different languages. Korean is not one of them. I have no idea how to pronounce the other guy's name. Sun Moon Min.
Just go Son.
We're just calling him Son. I can't do it in my New York accent, so I gotta try. Anyways, but I think Dele Alli is probably their best playmaker. Wouldn't we all agree on that?
Now that they don't have Christian Eriksen, yeah.
Right.
When he's engaged like that, he's a two-way guy. He's going to track back on defense, and he's going to help on that end too, and really link up the play from the back line to the front guys. So when he's engaged and into it, I mean, he's one of the better two-way midfielders you're going to find in the Premier League, but that doesn't happen all the time.
Got you. All right. This is where the conversation gets good. This is where the charcoal starts to settle. This is where the flame gets hot. We are in the top 4, the top tier. Artie, kick us off with our number 4 team.
We got Man City. No, I'm just kidding. We don't
Hey,
have Man
hey,
City. Hey, yeah, we got Manchester United. Now, this is another one that's odd. A lot of talent. They add Van de Beek, and looking now a 4-2-3-1. We have no idea how they're going to play this. I don't honestly just thinking about it for the last hour or so. I don't I don't think that they played the same formation as they played last year. It's going to be a little awkward because obviously you have Rashford, Martial, and Greenwood. And what do you do? But they cannot play with two defensive midfielders without one defensive midfielder. So it's going to be extremely different, I think, the look of Manchester United and how they play. I think it's going to be extremely different. You have wing players and a striker that are very talented. They're not one dimensional. And I think that gives them a way to play with more variety. So you don't really have to play with two defensive midfielders. Could they pull something off where they play a 4-1-2-3 or something of that nature? It's extremely possible. And that would be my guess of what they would do. But it's just kind of hard, to sit one of the three midfielders that they have down right now. But Van de Beek is going to be starting for them. So it's just a reality that they're going to have to switch something up. So the reason we have them they have an abundance of talent and they're going to be able to score with the best of them. But can they figure out this formation? Can they figure out this lineup to jump them up a couple places, if not one place or two places? And again, this is a team last year that had a 30 goal differential. All the teams we have in this 8, they all have positive goal differentials. This team had 30. They were at a 30. I think they were ranked 4th in the league, right above Chelsea. But man, they're going to be able to score. They're going to be able to score. But are they going to be able to figure out a form? Are they going to be able to get comfortable? That's all remains to be seen. We have them at 4, and that's my reason of why they're below the other top tier teams.
Mr. West, jump in on this.
So it just kind of came to me, but don't be surprised to see them line up in a 4-4-2. My reasoning behind this is, and I've said this for a while now, I'm not a huge fan of Marcus Rashford. There's nothing about Marcus Rashford to me that speaks elite level. He's good. He's young. Can he still prove me wrong? Absolutely. At this point in his career, I get it. He's an England international. He's got England caps, but I don't. There's nothing about him that screams superstar to me. So with that being said, if you want to play all those midfielders that you have, then you can have Pogba, you can have Van de Beek, you can have Fernandez, and then you can have an actual defensive midfielder like Nemanja Matic and play him and actually have some stability in the middle. And then you have Greenwood and Martial up top. Or, they could drop Rashford down to the right side of a 4-4-2 and play it that way, and then play Fernandez out on the left and allow him the free reign to get into the middle and create some chances that way. But
question, Zach, question.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think in any way they can mirror kind of what the French national team
does? As far as what?
As far as a form, because with Conte and Pogba, I think just as far as a midfield, do you think they can kind of mirror that? Because up top, I don't think they'll be able to have somebody playing under like Griezmann plays under Giroud. But with the midfield, as far as the midfield goes, I'm obviously Conte and Matic, they're in two different worlds. But
right,
can you play a Matic like that and a Pogba up higher with maybe two guys on the side and a 4-1-3-2? I mean,
so that being said, if they want to stick with the 4-2-3-1, they can absolutely do that and keep Greenwood on the bench. Matic and Pogba sitting in those two defensive midfielder roles actually works really well for United. The problem is they didn't play it very often because Pogba sat on the bench for so long. when you have Matic and Pogba next to each other, Matic sits in that deep lying, Conte role. And Pogba gets a little bit more flexibility to move forward. So yes, they can absolutely do that if they want to keep a guy like Greenwood on the bench, or Rashford or whatever.
Joe, jump in there, man. You.
I think y'all know how I feel about this squad already, but it really depends on what Solskjaer decides to do with the setup, like they said. I think they got a pretty solid back four. I think they kind of settled on a group back there that works for them. I think they got plenty of attacking talent, and I would be really surprised if they fall out of the top four, actually, even with some of the changes that they've had. And really, just like they said, the midfield is where the game is won and lost most of the time in soccer. And that's the kind of the area they got to sort out, because I think they know what they want to do with their front three. It really depends what Zach was talking about with their midfield and how they want to line up, because they have some studs there, but they really came on when they brought in Bruno last year. He made a tremendous difference in that squad. They were struggling for a while, and then he came in and really changed the dynamic of the team. So having him there definitely for a full season is going to be huge. So, Mo, you're on mute, bro.
You, Mike. That's my bad. Big shot. Your thoughts?
The reason I think they'll finish fourth is because what kind of became clear toward the end of last season, the Harry Maguire is not that good. And they don't, and if he's the best center back you have, you're gonna have trouble, especially if you are gonna play this really attacking midfield and this really attacking front, and you have nobody to cover for him. He and Victor Lindelof got exposed a lot in space last year, and I could see them playing someone like a Tottenham who lets you have the ball and leave these big gaps going forward and just leave Son and Kane with all this space. So fourth is going to be with them because I don't trust the defense. And if David De Gea is going to be the number one keeper all season, that's fourth place written all over it. They will be exciting. Man, they will play a lot of games 3-2. It'll be a lot of 3-2, 4-3, up and down the pitch. You'll see it'll be exciting. But exciting don't win you league. So
nope.
Man U at fourth is about right.
Just a rapid fire question. Who do you think will lead the team in goals?
Bruno Fernandes.
Yeah, I would concur with that.
Yeah, Bruno Fernandes, because Bruno gonna take every dead ball on earth, no matter what the situation is. He
had 96 penalties last year too.
Every free kick, every penalty, he gonna take shots from wherever. Yeah, so
there ain't gonna be any lofting balls into the box for guys with him. He's going towards the goal every time.
Well, and truthfully, they don't have the talent and the size to do that anyway.
Correct. Exactly.
Oh yeah.
So get to the comments real quick before we reveal number 3. Only because I just want to tease Zach Westbrook with anticipation before we reveal number 3.
Do it.
Shout out to J Ham, the Godfather, with his signature yo. Shout out to the baseball guru, Jorge, whose YouTube channel, Kids Reaction, KIDZ Reaction. Make sure you subscribe to that one. There's a lot of great videos with his kids. And Josh Storms, just before we move on, says that Jose, about Marino, he's like Mike D'Antoni, comes in heralded as the guy who's finally going to get you over the hump, but know he's going to ultimately let you down. And by the looks of the fellas, I would say that, Josh, we agree with you.
Spot on, Storms.
Yeah, that's very
accurate. That's one of the best analogies I've heard to Jose.
That's that category 5, baby. That's that category 5.
Out of nowhere.
Yes, sir. All right. Number 3, Mr. West.
Finally, my team. We got Chelsea at 3rd. For me, here's the thing. Can Chelsea leapfrog into the top 2 and possibly win the league? Yes. Will they? Probably not. And definitely okay. most likely not, and definitely not in the first year. They have gone wild in the window, just throwing money like they're robbing banks every other day. They've brought in if they sign a goalkeeper this week, that'll be their ninth signing of this transfer window. Over 200 million in signings.
I don't think anybody else is even close to that, right, Zach?
No, not even
Remotely close.
I think the closest is Tottenham, who haven't even broken 100.
Right.
So,
Wow.
yeah. So Chelsea have brought in Kai Havertz, the German wonder kid. They brought in Timo Time Werner,
Yes, sir.
the Bundesliga striker. So, Chelsea's gone very German heavy. They got Antonio Rudiger as a center back who was playing Agent Rudiger, and he was apparently pretty instrumental in bringing both Timo Werner and Kai Havertz to Chelsea. So Chelsea's problems were the lack of goal scorers. They have never had a striker who can consistently put goals since. Okay, maybe Diego Costa when he's not in his own head and crazy, but really the best striker they've had since Didier Drogba. Morata was a flop.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, and that hurt because I really like Alvaro.
Same.
But so not only have they brought in Havertz and Werner, they brought Ben Chilwell from Leicester City, solved their left back problem because that was a huge hole for Chelsea every year. They brought in Hakim Ziyech from Ajax, who is the most underrated long ball passer in the world.
Okay.
His left foot is amazing. Some of the 60, 70 yard left footed passes that he will put on a dime are amazing. They brought in Thiago Silva from PSG on a free, so it didn't cost him a dime. And he's going to anchor that center back because that's Chelsea's big issue was in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
They couldn't find that right partnership. They got 1,000,001 center backs, and none of them worked well together. I think bringing Thiago Silva in, and I think they're going to put Kurt Zuma next to him. Kurt Zuma is one of those defenders. He's kind of like Harry Maguire, likes to get forward. He gets a little bit adventurous, a little bit too big for his britches. The problem with United is they got Victor Lindelof, who can't stay home. Whereas Thiago Silva, he solves that. He remedies that. So he can stay home. And then they got a couple other, small signings. Marlang Sarr, who is really, really underrated. And I was surprised to see Chelsea are going to loan him out this year. But he actually played almost 50 games for OG Nice in League One, and he was by far their best center back. So I was surprised to see that they're going to loan him out. But having that top three of Christian Pulisic, Timo Werner, and Hakim Ziyech with Kai Havertz sitting behind them directly, followed by Mateo Kovacic and N'Golo Kante. On paper, like that's scary. That is really,
right
really scary.
Yeah.
If they can mesh, they're going to challenge, Liverpool and City every step of the way.
I mean, you just look at that. Those guys you listed, they should have zero problem with control and pace and possession. But like you said, we'll see where ultimately the goals come from. Big Shot, jump in on this one with Chelsea.
This reminds me of like the first year of Roman Abramovich when like Chelsea like 03 came in and spent at that time what was considered crazy money then. And it took a year. But then the second year, it was the first year of Jose back-to-back titles. Chelsea is a dangerous three because if it comes together, second is not out of the question if this comes together. I think the big thing is going to be for them is just going to be Conte's health and can their defense. The defense doesn't have to be great. The defense just can't cost you game. If defense doesn't cost you game and Conte is reasonably healthy, Chelsea is third and rising. with a real shot at second, with a real shot at a deep run in the Champions League. So Chelsea third, we're gonna have them third with stock rising. I think going into the year, because I think the attacking, the front 5, 6, whatever you want to call it, that's gonna be a something once it comes together.
They just, like I said, they could just come at you with any pace they want to, if it all starts to mesh. And hopefully Pulisic stock also continues to rise, because that'll be good for American football on this side. Joe, jump in on Chelsea.
Another team that's being led by a star legendary midfielder from their team. And that's another one of those guys that we talked about that kind of transitioned well into the management role from being that stud midfielder for a Premier League squad. They definitely make me nervous as a fan of another top 3 team. The goalkeeper situation definitely is something to keep an eye on. I think Zach said that they are more than likely going to have a new one coming in, and that should hopefully solve that problem. But yeah, they're on pay, and all those guys up front too. They're not attacking players. They're not just going to be hanging out up front, not giving a lot of effort going back and tracking back and helping on the defensive side. They're all hard workers too, and they're not just going to kind of linger by the midfield and watch. They're going to get back. They're going to track back. They're going to press the ball. So that squad definitely is up and coming. And if it meshes quickly, then they're going to be pushing Liverpool and Manchester City for sure.
Well, this is what we call in the business a segue, and we're going to stick right there with you. Reveal us our number 2 team, please.
Number 2 for the consensus was my squad, Manchester City. Been fairly quiet in regards to the transfer market this year compared to what we've been doing in the past. We brought in Nathan Ake from Bournemouth, and we brought in Ferran Torres from Valencia. He's kind of taking over the Leroy Sané position on the wing. Sané was bought back to Germany with Bayern Munich. So his loss is going to hurt a little bit, but they have so much depth in our squad right now that it does hurt that he's gone. But they signed a young guy. Torres is only 20 years old. He's an up-and-coming Spanish player. He got his first goal internationally this past week for Spain. His main problem that Manchester City's had with last year was health again. They could not keep their back 4 healthy. It was constantly changing who was playing center back. We've had to reinvent what some of our midfielders were. Some of them, we have a defensive midfielders playing at center back. We've had attacking midfielders have to cover at left back. And they really were their own worst enemy. They couldn't get out of their own way sometimes. They would just make some really questionable decisions and they would get punished for them. A lot of times guys make a bad pass here and there, and they don't necessarily get punished for it. But it seemed like every time that one of our guys made a poor decision or a bad pass, it always ended up in a goal, and it was always at the worst time possible. And kind of same problem that another team we talked about had with finishing. We have so much talent up front, and yet they struggle at times to put the ball in the back of the net, and that should never happen when you got the guys that we have up front. But a lot of that,
Sterling.
A lot of that it was still kind of the inflow. Our squad was being rotated constantly just because of injuries and guys being out. So if they can get a little bit of health in the back line, I don't see any reason why they're not back in the top spot myself. So,
which is crazy considering I do believe City had the highest goal differential last year.
Yeah, they had like 10 goals. They were, and a lot of people talked about how poor our defense was. We were still in the top 5 in goals allowed, and it just seemed like the ones that we were giving up were crucial game clinching goals for the other squads. So it was just all the advanced metrics that soccer have. A lot of them had us should have finished ahead of Liverpool, and certainly not 20 points behind them. So it was just one of those seasons for them. So it looks like at least tomorrow it should have an update on Koulibaly from Napoli. It looks like there's supposed to be an announcement tomorrow from his agent. So if they bring him in and add him to the mix as center back and partner him with Laporte, that solves that problem right there with barring, health, obviously. But I mean, I could keep talking, but I'm going to let you guys jump in because I love this. This is my team. And I got into soccer 10 years ago, and I'm all about them, man. So I'll let Zach or Ronnie jump in a little bit too.
Ronnie, get in there.
What's the old saying? Water finds its level.
Yeah.
Man City is not an 81-point team.
No.
And to the flip side, the team that we about to talk about, is not a 99-point team. So I think I'm not gonna say this is the Pep revenge tour, but I expect Man City back closer to high 80s, 90 on points, and the race to be much tighter. I think that if the Koulibaly happens, you give me Koulibaly and Laporte for an entire season, that changes.
That ain't bad.
That changes the title race a lot. So I'm gonna let Zach jump in on City so we can get to why the number one team. There are some big questions, but City at 2 is comfortable, and if Koulibaly does appear and there's a healthy Laporte, winning this thing is far from out of the question if all of that happens.
Just get in there, Zach.
So here's the thing. The only problem I have with Koulibaly is what do you do with Nathan Ake? Because you just spent $45 million on Nathan Ake, and he fits the exact problem that you guys have. He's a young left-footed center back. He pairs really, really well with Aymeric Laporte. Now, don't get me wrong, Koulibaly is a much higher level than what Nathan Ake is right now. But, unless you're going to switch to a 3 in the back, which I know Pep is not going to do, again, then you got, depth is never a bad thing. So having Nathan Ake as your, first off the bench isn't bad, and with rising transfers, 45 million for a backup center back is not bad. Koulibaly and Laporte is probably the best center back partnership in the Premier League. And I say that easily, not really researching other teams, but off the top of my head, I can't think of a better pairing. The thing with City for me is they got to put it all together. They got to stay healthy. And how does the loss of Leroy Sané really affect them? I like Ferran Torres, and he's young, but he's gonna take some time. Just like Christian Pulisic needed time at Chelsea, Ferran Torres is gonna need time at City. So, if let's say that they don't get Koulibaly, they go in the season with Ake and Laporte, and Ferran Torres doesn't immediately take to water, I still don't see them 20 points behind Liverpool. Right. They'll easily challenge for the title. And up until about 12 hours ago, I had Liverpool as a clear favorite. And then I started doing a little bit more research, got in the lab, did a little bit of advanced scouting, if you will, and came to the kind of consensus that Liverpool not only overachieved, they overachieved
Massively.
By a lot.
I have a quick answer for you on Ake, by the way. He plays left back for the national team, and he's also grew up playing in the midfield. So we all know, if you followed City, that Benjamin Mendy is the starting left back, but he has not been able to stay healthy for any season that he's been here. So Ake will more than likely get some time at 3 different positions. They're going to have him at center back, left back, but he's going to probably fill in a little bit in the midfield as needed. And that's if they pull in Koulibaly, because otherwise we still got Otamendi and Stones on the squad. So
don't get it twisted. I'm very familiar with Nathan Ake. I mean, he's a Chelsea Academy graduate. So it pained me to see Chelsea sell him to Bournemouth. First off, he plays left back for Netherlands only because there's nowhere for him to sit in at center back with Virgil van Dijk there.
Yep.
He's not a very good left back. So I think that's a huge mistake if you play him at left back. he gets covered by Virgil van Dijk for Netherlands, and he plays left back because he's left footed.
Yep.
I don't mind him as a holding midfielder, but I like him as that left center back.
That's Laporte's position. That's usually where he's at. So the other positions would be more so for coverage. I think they still want to give Mendy that first shot at the left back position. So
Yes,
It'll be
sir.
interesting.
Yes, it certainly will. Certainly will. All right. I mean, I think there's no need for a drum roll, no need for a teaser. We all know who the number one spot is right now. They are the champions of from last year, and that is Liverpool. Big shot. I'm gonna let you get in on this one first. What you got?
So there are two really big questions with Liverpool. The first one is burnout. And I think you talk about playing 97-point football one year, 99-point football the next year. That is an incredible rate of winning to do 3 years in a row.
Mm.
So you have to wonder at what point is there just simply not enough gas in that tank to do it a third time. Because to win this league, 90 points is the bare minimum at this point. Like, if you want to win the title, 90 is baseline.
Yes.
And so to ask somebody to win 97, 99 again, that's a tough ask. And then here's the second question I have, and I'm going to kick it to you all. Nobody in the league plays with a bigger home field advantage than Liverpool. Nobody. It is the toughest place to go in the Prem to win games. No fans in the stands for at least 2 months is a bigger factor than what people are saying.
That's fair.
Liverpool plays most matches, except for maybe City. They're a goal up before the match starts.
Yeah.
Strictly off of the crowd. With no home crowd, that is a big thing for a team that thrives off the crowd, because Liverpool plays a very intense. They press you. They all over the place. The crowd's on top of you. So for me, Liverpool is a team that when we had this in the pre-production meeting a couple days ago, I was like, yeah, Liverpool comfortably. But no home crowd and burnout, I think, make this very, very tough. And as we talked about, they're not 99 points.
Right. I mean, just two things I want to go before Zach jumps in. We talking about you need 90 points. That's just to make it easy. That's about 30 wins out of 38 games.
It's a lot of wins.
That's a lot of wins. And then just big shot in 94 feet of life. You were the one who I think the blog or the podcast you did was called the Power of Four or whatever it was. I can't remember the exact title, but you were talking about the Warriors.
Yeah.
And we saw what happened with them. The tank ran out at the worst possible time. They saw the finish line, and the tank just combusted. So you don't know when the tank's gonna run out. Zach, jump in on this.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Merseyside, like Ron said, Merseyside is the toughest environment to play in. You know, the whole. I get chills listening to them saying "You never walk alone" on YouTube videos. Like that's how like hollowing it is to watch that. I can't even imagine what it's like to see an actual match at Merseyside. So yes, to Ron's credit, it's absolutely the toughest place to play. I hear a lot of rumblings that they're going to break Chelsea's home unbeaten record, which is kind of crazy because they'd have to win every match at home this season and half of next season in order to do that.
Wow.
Which I don't think is going to happen for the simple reason of one, burnout, two, Liverpool was healthy all year. I think if you go back and you look at every single match, I don't think they deviated from their starting lineup much other than maybe one or two. They had their top three. They had Mane, Firmino, and Salah at the ready every single match. And that alone right there is key. For me, the key is if they're willing to sell Gini Wijnaldum to Barca, I think that is the biggest mistake they can make. And if they do, I'm telling you right now, there is 0% chance they win the league.
Wow.
Yeah, they're not a
Because
particularly deep squad as it is. They're. I mean, City goes too deep international players at pretty much every position, and Liverpool just doesn't have that kind of depth. So the health factor has definitely been a major issue that I've brought up with some other soccer heads with Liverpool, because like Zach said, I mean, they never had to change their back four. They had Allison, and then they had Robertson, Van Dijk, and whoever they wanted to put next to him, and Trent Alexander-Arnold almost every match. And that continuity and not missing any of your big names for any stretch of time. The only time they had to sit them was if they really wanted to for the upcoming Champions League game or something like that. And even then, they didn't really do that. So they've been extraordinarily lucky in the health department for 2 years now.
and that was what I was. Joe actually just he touched on the exact thing that I was just gonna say is, you look at Chelsea and you look at City, they are 2 to 3 deep at every single position internationally, and Liverpool is not. They brought in Tsimikas, a young left back to kind of spell Alexander Arnold, but they lost Dej Lovren, who was I think for the most part most of their VVD's partner, and then they lost Adam Lallana. They let another midfielder go.
For
Who
free.
now Adam Lallana is not not at the caliber he once was, but now you're talking about losing Adam Lallana to Brighton for free, and you're talking about selling Wijnaldum, who in my eyes is your best creative midfielder.
Right.
How do you expect to win 30 matches and break that 90-point barrier with no depth?
Right. And what also our fans have to remember this year, because of the Euros getting canceled this past summer, the Euros is going to happen in 2021. What does that have to do with the Premier League? Every major league has to wrap up, no matter what happens, by like the middle of May, regardless as to whatever's going on. So we have a season. If you look at the season's already starting a month late. So you're a month behind on the season, and you have to end. So not only are you going to have 4 competitions, because you got Liverpool's in the Champions League, it's going to be a condensed schedule.
Yes.
It's fixture hell.
This year, depth matters more than it ever has. And Liverpool is, to me right now, they're about 3 signings short, purely for depth reasons. Not even that you need superstars. You need to be able to sit people, because depth is going to be it's going to be a factor. So I'm comfortable with keeping them at 1, but it's not 1 with a bullet, because I think there is every conceivable factor Zach talked about. Does the health even itself out this year? Does burnout come into a play? There is no home field advantage. So the gap between Liverpool and Man City was 18 points last year. I don't think it was 18, but let's just go with it.
It was actually.
It was 18?
Yes, sir.
That gap as of today for me is like 5. As of today.
And that's 2 matches between the two of them.
That's 2 matches. So it's not it's 1, but it's not a comfortable 1 as of today.
Man City won back-to-back titles 3 and 2 years ago, and the last time that happened was when Man U repeated 3 times in the end of the 10s in 2007, 8, and 9. So that just doesn't happen very often anymore in the Premier League. There's so much parity with who wins from year to year. So that's why I had City at 1, not just because they're my favorite team, but because that repeating titles is extremely difficult in the Premier League now. It's so hard.
It doesn't happen.
If that injury bug hits them, there's nothing in my mind that would surprise me if they finish 4th.
Hey, I mean, I think, in my opinion, in soccer, cohesion and continuity is more important than any other sport. Probably basketball right after that, just because it's not like football where there's a huddle and a scripted play after every other play. Football is just a constant Give and go, give and go, give and go, give and go. All right, so that wraps up the bulk of the show. We're gonna go rapid fire, a few quick questions around the horn. And so let's get it started. Player of the year candidate prediction. Zach, I'm gonna start with you.
My solid player of the year winner that I feel very, very comfortable with is last year's winner, KDB, Kevin De Bruyne. He is the midfielder you want.
Yes.
Now, if we talked about this earlier, if this team meshes well, don't be surprised to see Kai Havertz in this talk.
Wow, that's. I was not expecting you to say that. Joe, player of the year nominee.
I have another City player. I actually think Raheem Sterling is going to put it together this year and have a monster year.
Listen,
the KDB thing, they don't repeat in that either. So and Sterling has been on the cusp of real greatness under Pep, and I think this year at 25 is going to be the year that he takes that leap forward.
Sterling is a player that frustrates me, and I only get frustrated with great players, honestly. So it's not a knock on him. It's
he drives me nuts too, dude. Trust me. I totally understand.
Yes, sir. Big shot.
My player of the year is Sadio Mane.
Okay.
With Raheem Sterling as the second choice.
Okay. Interesting.
I had Mane at 2 for me too, so I'm right there with you, Big Shot.
All right. Listen, anything else you want to add, Big Shot, or that's it?
No, I think Mane is, to me, Liverpool's best player.
Right.
I think
by far.
I just think they are not the same. We talked about the injury factor. Fingers crossed, we don't wish that.
Right.
If Mane's out for any amount of time, it's not the same thing.
Firmino is not nearly as lethal without Sadio Mane.
Yeah. And neither is Salah, for that matter.
Yep.
Neither,
he's not out there. It's just the two of them. It's a different lineup for him, for sure.
1,000%. And in my opinion, you could tell me if I'm wrong on this, but I just think Mane is a guy you've just seen constant, gradual growth in his game year after year after year. He's a joy to watch play football. All right, manager of the year, Big Shot. I know you're gonna start with you.
If Wolves end up in fourth somehow, it's Nuno.
Okay,
that's my pick. I think, obviously you could pick Klopp or Pep pretty much every year, but I think Nuno is the guy. If Wolves end up in fourth, Nuno's your pick.
I dig it. Professor Joe.
If my predictions hold true and City win, they almost always just give it to the manager of the team that won the title. So I have Pep in there. I also like Santo, but if Chelsea can get to 2 and make some noise, I would not be surprised if Lampard's name is right there too.
Zach?
To Joe's point, if Super Frank can somehow, put them in the talk and in the hunt for the title, I could definitely see that. I don't have him. This would be a good segue for the next question that we have. My manager of the year is going to be Carlo Ancelotti for Everton.
Oh, boy.
So I really like Everton. I know that they are one of those mid-level teams that just can't ever seem to get even into the top 8.
Listen, I know there's no timeouts in soccer, but I'm going to give you a timeout right now. Okay, let's segue it. Sleeper team, Mr. West, keep it going.
So my sleeper team this year is Everton. Not to win. Everton will not win. But if you look at that squad, that starting 11, the amount of talent that they have there is disgusting. And they just have a brand new midfield. They brought in 3 midfielders. They got James Rodriguez. They brought in Allen from Napoli, and then they just brought in Doucouré from Watford. And that is a Premier League caliber midfield.
Yes, sir.
And you partner that with their top line. I like this squad, and I would not be surprised to see them finish 6 to 8 and knock. I don't think Leicester is in the top 8. I actually had Everton finishing 7th. this
Okay.
year. They're
Okay.
7th on my squad. Now, if you want a sleeper team for the title, it's obvious reasons for me, and that it's got to mesh. But Chelsea.
Chelsea, right? Big shot, sleeper team.
The sleeper team, I talked about them. The greatest variance of where they could finish makes Spurs the sleeper.
That's fine, definitely.
Because as annoying, as irritating as Jose can be, Jose in his second season has almost 9 times out of 10 improved the team he's managed in the second season.
Yeah.
So a top 4 finish for the Spurs would not be out of the question, just because Jose, annoying and as weird as he is, could do something like that. So Spurs is the sleeper, and Everton is everyone's favorite. You know how you have everyone's sleeper is Everton, but Everton is in the improvement in the category. I need to actually see you do it before I'll go full in on that.
Listen, the funny thing is like I know during these soccer shows I probably smile more than the baseball and football shows combined, and it's truly because there's just a joy that comes with watching this beautiful, sophisticated, simple game. Yes, I said sophisticated and simple in the same sentence. Joe,
It works.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It does. Give me a sleeper team, Professor.
My first team that I had talked about or thought about was Wolves, but I don't think they're a sleeper anymore. I think everybody knows about them. So, and I went a little different route. I went a lot deeper down the table, and my sleeper team is not somebody that's going to make a whole lot of noise, but I think they're a sleeper to finish at least maybe top 10. And that's the team that won the championship last year, and that's Leeds United. They just brought in a really talented striker in Rodrigo. They were doing a lot of work down the championship, and they've been putting some money into that team. They got a lot of talent, and a lot of the times the 3 teams that come up from the championship side, championship, usually most people expect them to finish in the bottom 5, maybe get out of to the teens. But I think that team has a real shot to move their way up the table and make some mid-table noise.
I like it. I like it. I like it. All right, fellas. We're going to do quick closing thoughts, including give me your prediction as to who you think will actually win it. We're going to go Big Shot, Mr. West, and then Professor Joe.
As I said, water finds its level. So I'm not going to say this is going to be 2012 when we had the most epic league title finish probably in the history of sports. I don't think we'll ever see anything like that ever again. But I will say this, because I think Liverpool will come back to the pack with Chelsea's signings, with Man City's, with who they are. This will be decided in the last 2 weeks.
Yes.
And all 3 of them will be there with 2 weeks to go. So we may not get Aguero. We may not get that action.
And you give me goosebumps, bro. You give me goosebumps hearing that.
Yeah, because I think it's impossible to get something like that again. But I think we will have a legitimate 3-horse race with 2 to 3 weeks to go, and then let the chips fall where they may at that point.
Hey, that's all we can ask for there, Mr. West.
Yeah, he's exactly right. And a lot of it's going to come down to that final 2 weeks of whose schedule is better, whose schedule is more beneficial. You look at fixtures, especially. Also, are these teams still playing for the FA Cup? Because everybody knows the FA Cup final is after the season ends.
Right.
And so are they still in the Champions League? Are they still, in for whatever reason Arsenal decide to pull their head out of their ass? Are they fighting for the Europa League? And they're up there as well. It is legitimately going to come down to the wire this year. It will be about the team that stays the healthiest, which I know that's every season. The team that stays the healthiest, the team that finishes correctly, and the team that meshes well.
Yes.
So I had Liverpool winning it. I'm gonna pick City to win it, and I'm gonna pick Chelsea to finish second. I
Okay.
think I think that Liverpool's going to hit that injury bug, and I think that's gonna hurt them.
Professor Joe.
Yeah, I agree with Ronnie with the burnout thing too, because that definitely caught up to City this past year. They had 198 points in 2 years, which is unheard of. And then this past year they dropped down. So I think that's definitely going to catch up to Liverpool this year. I think it definitely is going to. There won't be any runaway title winners like we've had the past couple of years between Liverpool and City. It's definitely going to be a lot closer race going down to the end. And because I think Liverpool's luck with the injuries and the burnout and the lack of fans, that's something I hadn't thought about until Ronnie mentioned.
Mhm.
I think City's going to pull the title
Yeah.
back to Manchester on the blue side, and I
Yes.
think they're going to be raising that trophy up with a new captain this year.
I'm gonna honestly go with Man City as well. That's probably my favorite team in the EPL. I do like Chelsea as well, but I love Man City. I like the players they have. Obviously, my Brazilian bias is always gonna make me root for Gabriel Jesus, but that's what it is, fellas. Great show. I'm Mo. That's Big Shot. That's Mr. West. That's Professor Joe. We will catch you next week, same time, same channel. Don't forget to subscribe.